If you've ever reached for that familiar blue and yellow can because it's cheap or on sale, this one's for you. I used to do the same, until I learned that convenience can carry a cost you don't see on the label. Let me show you which canned tuna brands are quietly failing safety tests and which few actually meet the standard you deserve. Number 1. Genova. You think a label that says Mediterranean means quality, but with Genova, the story behind the oil isn't as clean as the branding. The green gold can, the olive branch logo, the promise of rich flavor in imported oil, it all signals upscale. Genova sells that image hard, offering yellowfin or albacore packed in garlic, chili, or lemon herb olive oil. On the surface, it looks like the classy cousin of those bargain cans hiding in your pantry. But here's the truth, that premium look covers a very industrial reality. Genova is owned by a global seafood giant facing questions about sustainability, and watchdogs note the same issues pop up across its family of brands. High sodium counts, vague sourcing regions, and fishing methods that are tough to trace. Some reviews go further, calling the texture inconsistent. One can creamy and dense, the next oddly mushy with salt levels that overwhelm the tuna. It's the sort of inconsistency that reveals how mass production and marketing polish can drift far from the claims printed on the label. And here's the kicker. Other olive oil-packed tunas, like those from Ortiz or Tonino, prove that true premium quality doesn't rely on fancy packaging. They publish catch data, guarantee sourcing from certified waters, and focus on the fish itself rather than just the oil it sits in. That transparency alone changes both taste and trust. So how many premium cans would actually pass a real sustainability test? Probably fewer than you think. Price and design can impress, but purity comes from traceable supply chains and clear certification, not Mediterranean fonts. Bottom line, when you buy Genova, the higher price often buys perception, not protection, leaving the real Mediterranean spirit still waiting somewhere out at sea. Number 2. Van Camps. You walk past Van Camps thinking it's harmless nostalgia. That plain can your parents always had stacked in the cupboard. It feels dependable, even comforting. But the sourcing story behind that label hasn't aged nearly as well as the memories attached to it. This brand traces its roots back through decades of corporate tuna mergers, where the goal was speed and scale, not traceability. That low shelf price didn't appear by accident. It came from mass fishing methods that still define how many of those cons end up on store shelves today. Most low-cost lines like this depend on purse-seine nets, massive circular nets that sweep up whole sections of the sea at once. They catch schools of tuna, sure, but they also drag in marine life that never belong there. We're talking sea turtles, sharks, and dolphins trapped as bycatch. It's a factory tactic, not a fishing craft, and it leaves behind more ecological wreckage than you see on the label. It's also a reason the words pole and line rarely appear on that can, because selective human-caught methods simply take longer and cost more. Even the product inside tells that story. Consumer panels often describe the meat as dry or overly processed, lacking that natural flake real tuna should have. You get a packed, compact texture that tastes more of brine than fish. That happens when the cuts are lower grade or when the fish spends too long between catch and can. And here's the truth, even this corner cutting carries through to testing too. Older production lines like these lag behind modern standards for mercury monitoring or ethical sourcing records. Heritage branding feels warm, but it can also hide outdated practice. Sustainable doesn't mean old-fashioned. Choose traceable, clearly labeled tuna for flavor that respects both your plate and the ocean. Number 3. Trader Joe's Select Lots. Ever notice how every can of Trader Joe's tuna looks the same until you open one? That minimal white label promises the same thing every time. A clean, simple product from a store you trust. It's part of the brand's draw, unfussy, affordable, and familiar. You expect that can to deliver the same mild, rich tuna that fits into your weekly routine without a second thought. But here's where it slips. Some cans come out moist and satisfying, while others are so dry and chalky you almost need mayonnaise to rescue the texture. That kind of swing doesn't happen by accident. It points straight to different suppliers filling the same label, each with its own processing methods and quality levels. Because private label contracts rotate, customers never know which factory or boat supplied the fish sitting in that exact can. The label stays the same even when the source completely changes. Taste tests have picked up on this inconsistency for years. The solid white albacore and extra virgin olive oil has been described as distracting, oddly dry, forming clumps instead of natural flakes. The flavor holds up, but the mouthfeel breaks down. A sign of variable handling before sealing and retort sterilization. It's a roulette of quality hidden under uniform packaging, and the odds aren't in your favor. Compare that to single-origin tunas that spell out catch zones and methods right on the label. When brands track every fish from ocean to shelf, their product stays predictable. Same ocean, same process, same taste. Without that data, no one, not even the retailer, can guarantee consistency. Bottom line, store brand trust isn't a safety net. When every can feels like a coin flip, the only real protection is transparency. Look for tuna that names its fishing method and region before it ever lands in your cart. Number 4. H-E-B Select Lots. It's tempting to trust a local name like H-E-B. The brand sells a story of pride and value. Texas-born, budget-friendly, community-based. That homegrown image fits what shoppers want from a supermarket staple. Something made with care, priced for families, and familiar enough to toss into the cart without reading beyond the front label. In the tuna aisle, that same signature appears across a range of cans, promising solid white albacore, chunk light, or oil-packed options. It feels safe, but that confidence is where the trade-off begins. Select lots of H-E-B's canned tuna have been called out for dryness, bland taste, or heavy brine filling more of the can than fish. Those signs usually trace back to lower-grade tuna cuts, or inconsistent handling before sealing. Texture shifts from flake to fiber, with the meat tasting faint instead of fresh. When a product varies that much, the cause is rarely the recipe. It's the supply chain. Most retailer house brands don't own canneries. They contract out to multiple processors. Each factory follows slightly different protocols for cooking, oil balance, and salt ratios, so you never know which operation packed the specific lot you took home. That patchwork sourcing saves cost but sacrifices control. The biggest giveaway is sensory. One week you get flaky tuna that mixes cleanly with salad dressing, and the next a dense pasty version packed tight under metallic brine. Meanwhile, sustainably certified brands avoid this swing by documenting every catch through independent audits and tracking fish from sea to shelf. Here's the truth. Loyalty to local names doesn't lock in consistent quality. Every region has beloved banners, but trusted branding means little without proof of origin. For cans that truly earn confidence, check for MSC or pole and line markings before trusting even the friendliest store label. Number 5. White albacore tuna. You see white meat on the label and think you're getting the cleaner, higher-grade tuna. But when it comes to albacore, that white color comes with a hidden cost: mercury. Albacore grows larger and lives longer than smaller tuna species, which means it collects more mercury in its tissue year after year. That clean, mild flavor and firm bite people love is the same trait that puts it at the top of the mercury chart, far above light or skipjack tuna. Consumer reports warned that albacore tuna contained about 3 times more mercury than light tuna across the brands tested. The FDA backs that caution, advising that even healthy adults limit albacore servings per week, and that pregnant people and children should treat it as an occasional food. Mercury is a neurotoxin. It builds up silently in the body and can damage memory, coordination, and language development when exposure stays high. For older adults, it strains the kidneys and nervous system, turning an innocent-looking can into a long-term burden. The real problem is that even cons claiming low mercury swing from safe to risky because fish vary. 2 cans from the same brand can produce completely different readings depending on where the tuna was caught and how old it was when processed. Marketing can't fix biology. Testing shows that even smaller pole and line albacore isn't dramatically lower in mercury. The contrast here is striking. Light tuna species stay small, mature quickly, and show far lower mercury per serving. That difference makes light tuna safer for regular meals, especially for families. Here's the takeaway. White doesn't mean pure. Albacore may sound premium, but frequent servings quietly raise your mercury levels over time. Keep it as an occasional treat, not your weekly protein backup. Let's get on to the ones you can use without an ounce of doubt in your head. Number 1 safe, Safe Catch. The name itself sounds like a promise. Safe catch. You see that check mark and think, finally, a tuna company that solved the mercury problem. Their big claim is that they test every single fish before it goes into the can. It's the signature part of their brand. Strict testing, low mercury, peace of mind in bold print. For anyone trying to avoid heavy metal buildup, it sounds like the ultimate safety net. Here's the truth. Even that system comes with limits. Consumer Reports ran its own measurements and found that while Safe Catch's mercury numbers tend to sit lower than average, the results still swing. That's not a factory error. It's the biology of the fish. Tuna caught in different oceans, at different ages, can carry very different mercury loads. No amount of lab testing can erase that natural variation because mercury isn't distributed evenly through the sea. One albacore might register clean, while another from deeper water runs high. And there's a delay problem too. By the time fish make it from net to testing to can, their chemical profiles can shift. So while Safe Catch's method rejects fish that test above their internal cutoff, it can't guarantee that every finished can is identical. The brand still deserves credit. Their products consistently rank on the low end for contamination, and their ingredient lists stay refreshingly simple. Tuna and a pinch of salt, nothing more. But lowest mercury of any brand doesn't mean mercury-free. No tuna product is. Safe Catch remains one of the safest commercial choices you can find, but it's still tuna, not a detox drink. The smartest move? Keep your servings modest. Trust their test results as a helpful filter and treat it as a controlled part of your menu, not an everyday staple. Number 2, light tuna, skipjack, yellowfin. This is the quiet hero of the shelf. The lighter the tuna, the lighter the mercury load. Light tuna usually comes from skipjack or smaller yellowfin species, both of which grow fast and don't live long enough to store high mercury levels in their flesh. Because these fish stay smaller and feed lower on the food chain, their bodies simply don't have time to absorb as much mercury as albacore or big eye do. It's biology, not branding, that makes the difference. Here's the problem. The word light doesn't sound impressive. Many shoppers assume it means watered down or low quality when it actually means lower risk. Light tuna often delivers 3 times less mercury on average than the white albacore you see advertised as premium. Under FDA guidance, that drop means you can eat light tuna more regularly without raising your mercury exposure to unsafe levels. For families, especially pregnant women or young children, that smaller number translates to real safety. Skipjack and yellowfin can also taste better than the label suggests. In oil-packed versions, the flavor is full and slightly salty, not overly fishy. Well-handled light tuna keeps its natural flake and texture, giving you a stronger bite than the mush you find in over-processed alternatives. It's solid protein and omega-3 content with minimal toxicity worry. More substance, fewer side effects. Yes, the trade-off is taste intensity. Light tuna won't boast the dense, meaty profile albacore fans chase, but it's consistent and versatile. It blends easily into salads, sandwiches, or simple meals without dominating everything else on the plate. Bottom line, the real measure of tuna quality isn't the fancy label or color-coded price tag. It's the fish species and how transparently it's sourced. Always read for skipjack or yellowfin on the label, not just the vague words chunk or solid. Number 3, MSC certified/pole and line brands. Here's where taste, safety, and conscience finally meet. When you see MSC certified or pole and line caught printed on a can, you're looking at more than a fancy slogan. The Marine Stewardship Council, or MSC, audits fisheries to confirm that every fish was caught in a way that doesn't destroy marine life or deplete the next generation of tuna. Pole and line adds another layer. One tuna, one line, one hook. No massive nets, no sweeping bycatch of turtles or dolphins, no collateral damage wrapped around an industry shortcut. Each fish is pulled individually, handled fast, and chilled with care before canning. You taste the difference. But most shoppers don't realize those small print marks translate to huge differences below the surface. Without the blue MSC label or the words pole and line, it's almost impossible to confirm how your tuna was caught. And that missing detail affects not just the planet, but the plate. Net-caught tuna endures more stress and bruising, while individually caught fish hold their firm, clean texture. Brands like Wild Planet, Ortiz, and 365 by Whole Foods have built their reputation around that commitment. They're not just paying for a badge, they're verifying every step of their chain. Fisheries that meet these standards operate with strict quotas and constant environmental checks, which means the tuna inside your can represents a living ecosystem still intact, not stripped bare. That discipline pays off in taste tests too. Reviewers repeatedly highlight these brands for balanced salt levels, fresh sea aroma, and flakes that hold their shape instead of collapsing into paste. Sustainable practice here directly equals quality. Certification marks aren't decoration. They're proof of a clean catch and an honest supply line. Treat them as your non-negotiable filters every time you shop, because ethics and flavor belong in the same can. Bottom line, cheap cans cut corners you don't see until those shortcuts hit your body or the ocean floor. The sodium, the mercury, the waste, it all adds up in silence. Reading the tiny print matters more than the front label. Look for light species like skipjack, pole and line catching, and that MSC logo. These details keep both your health and marine life intact. Every choice sends a signal. Reward the brands that protect what feeds you. Subscribe now and learn which everyday foods hide the same blind spots as your old tuna can.